All, all right, we are at it, Huff. We are tournament three on our circuit of 12 tournaments in the Bravery Tour. For everybody listening, my name is Taylor Barton, founder of the 7-on-7 Association. But the real person you're here to watch and listen to is my friend on the other side, Brandon Huffman, national recruiting editor of 247 Sports. Huff, how we doing this week?
I am just living the dream actively. It's crazy time of year, Taylor. This is my what would it be like my 11th weekend in a row, I believe, of an event, tournament, camp of some sort since the beginning of the new year. So I am in mid-season form where every day is a day where I don't even know what day of the week it is.
I'm with you. And for everybody, I want you to know these small strides and little victories we're getting with Huff because there was no flex of any kind of first class travel on any flights or any hardships of having to be at an event in Hawaii or at a All American game that Huff it's so that the rough life sending pictures from Hawaii recruiting. So thank you, Huff. That's I think this is our first podcast in a
I
couple
was
of
trying to
years.
be I was trying to be considerate, you know. I always hate to make it about me. I want to make it about the kids.
Well, speaking of the kids, let's hop into this. For new listeners, we do this podcast before every one of our tournaments, and it's a really cool opportunity to get a chance to talk about the different programs that are in the tournament, the people running them, the backgrounds of them, and then the main point is to talk about the kids that are in the tournament. And this one we always look forward to and circle on our calendar. This tournament is the bell cow. Just always the best programs, most amount of top kids and recruits. Huff, if we look over the last 3 years, because this is our fourth annual Battle at the Beach in the LA area, we're going to be at College of the Canyons this weekend, Saturday, Sunday. There's been so much talent. I look at championship games that we've seen between Goon Squad and KT Prep, and both of the quarterbacks going on and being elite national prospects, and all of the tight ends and running backs and receivers and DBs, teams from Texas and Hawaii and all over the place. Talk a little bit about this tournament over the years, some of the maybe players and teams you've seen and thoughts you've had from it.
Yeah, I mean, you think back to some of the tournaments the early year. I mean, you had Pac-12, or I guess it's still the Pac-12, Big Ten quarterbacks, SEC quarterbacks. Um, the amount of talent that we've had at those events. The All-Americans, Under Armour All-Americans, Polynesian Bowl All-Americans, All-American Bowl selections. I mean, this has been a tournament that has grown so much. I mean, think about the first year when it was at Westlake High School to year two when it was in Santa Ana to last year in Burbank. And, this year College of the Canyon, really kind of covering the whole swath of land in the Southland, which is where I'm from, Ventura, 805, stand up. It's great because, you've got a lot of the top premier Southern California teams that are nationally rated teams, but then you got a lot of teams that are coming for the specific purpose of coming to Southern California, so they can visit UCLA or USC while they're down there. Some will go down and visit San Diego State too. So, they get to play in a competitive 7-on-7 tournament, but then also have the opportunity to visit these schools. I think that's, one of the bonuses of these events being scheduled in college areas.
Yeah, and it is that's a fun thing of our circuit. We help line up the college visits for programs. So I know multiple are doing USC and UCLA this weekend. When we do Portland, they go do Oregon State out in Boise State. So it's a lot of fun to see the kids get that experience and the programs get it and just pack everything into an efficient weekend. So Huff, we've talked about the tournament here and years past. So let's talk about this year, 2025 Battle at the Beach. A lot of different programs. We have a lot of returning programs that have been in our circuit before, and we have quite a few new programs. We have a ton of programs from Northern California. I love that. That area has grown and is so talented. A lot of well-known programs, and then a lot that are kind of building their name as they're getting into this. And then, yeah, some random ones from different states that we'll talk about that have some big time recruits as well. Let's hop into that. Let's talk about a couple of the programs that are coming down from the Pacific Northwest. From the state of Washington, we've got Rise. and we've got War, both from Puyallup, Washington. You got Michael Westbrook, who heads up that program, and Rob Mason, one of the OGs in this industry. They are bringing down couple teams and a couple really elite players, and especially at that QB position. Have talk about those guys.
Yeah, I think when you look at the talented group of quarterbacks that this tournament's going to have, two of those are coming from the Pacific Northwest. One in 2027 is Sione Kaho, who's with Rise, and then AJ Tuivasa, who is 2028 playing with War. And both happen to be Pierce County products, and both have bright futures. Multiple offers for both of them. Sione's got 2 more years of college ball left. AJ's got 3 more years, and so both of those guys were at Oregon's Junior Day in January. Both have offers from the Big Ten champs, and so those are kind of the headlines for each of those teams is the quarterback play. And it's been kind of a down couple of years in the Northwest at the quarterback position, but both those guys being national recruits already having offers from multiple Power Four conferences kind of shows that there's some excitement and some optimism about the quarterback play in the next couple of classes.
And both were offered young, right? You had Sione, who had the Oregon offer as a freshman, and AJ as an eighth grader, I believe, had Miami and Washington and Oregon. So these have been guys that have been pretty high profile from a young age, and they're going to come down. War is going to be in that freshman division, so all the groups are going to get to see AJ competing and spinning it, and then Rise in the high school division with Sione. So look forward to seeing those guys. Anytime in 7-on you have a good quarterback, you have a chance.
Yep.
At 7-on, you got to have a guy that can sling it around to be competitive, and those are two of the best that we'll see in the
Well,
tournament.
and to a great point. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, the very first tournament you ever had. uh Aiden Childs was like really the
Yeah,
only guy that anybody knew about a Goon Squad. And even then, nobody really knew a whole lot about him. And he took his team to the championship. And then KT Prep, who was without Jaden Rashada, had a quarterback named Luke Duncan, who ultimately went to the Pac-12 and now the Big Ten at UCLA. And they won the tournament. So if you have quarterbacks, you have a chance.
absolutely. Speaking of quarterbacks and a history of them, you mentioned a couple of them. Let's talk about KT Prep. They are the defending champions, Battle of the Beach, and in the first 3 years they won it. Two of the three. The first year, didn't win it in 2023, and then came back in 2024, got the belt again. Nathan Kenyon and Julian Kenyon were brothers that were started and ran that program. I know they have some new leadership this year. Have KT Prep based out of the Bay Area in Northern California. Talk about KT Prep, some of their kids, and that program overall.
Yeah, Mikey Mitchell. We saw him as an eighth grader at the Space Needle shootout back in, the torrential downpour that was 2022. And you see the maturation of Mikey as a player. He was the MVP of this tournament last year. A couple months later, he was the MVP, the quarterback MVP, at the Avery Strong Showcase. He's headed to Vanderbilt, headed to the SEC. And I saw him this last weekend at the KT Prep Avery Strong tournament in the Bay Area, which they won. And Mikey just had himself a day, threw some really nice balls in the championship game. I know you're going to be shocked to hear this, that KT Prep, the tight end program of the North of the West Coast, the same program that produced Brock Bowers, that has had Eric Cromenhoek play at USC and played in the NFL. Jack Endies is at Cal right now. Tucker Fisk, who's in the NFL at Stanford as well. Tight end after tight end. Well, they've got another big dog, Crosby Kelly, out of Campo Lindo High School in Moraga, California. I got a chance to watch it this week, and he's committed to San Diego State as kind of a jumbo athlete. He said that they're kind of fighting over him being an edge rusher and a tight end. But I got a text from a coach in the Bay Area a couple of weeks ago after they had played KT at a 7-on-7 tournament. It's like, all right, who the hell is this year's KT tight end that's killing everybody? And getting a chance to see him, it's like there's another one that's in that group. But another name to keep an eye on. They got a 2028 linebacker I really like named Landon Miller. You know much about the De La Salle program and the history of it and how hard it is to play varsity as a freshman at De La Salle. And Landon Miller played towards the end of the season as a freshman, already got some offers. He's a linebacker for De La Salle and for KT Prep. So kind of that young guy, that next young player for KT Prep to keep an eye on.
KT Prep, the challenge has been presented to you boys. No one's done back to back yet, so let's see if you guys can be the first in the history of this tournament to be able to win back to back years. It is going to be a challenge because this is a loaded tournament with some really, really good programs and teams. We've talked about some. We're going to talk about some others. Have to give you a breather here to just mention some programs that I like to let you talk about the programs and kids, the really high profile ones, and then I like to mention the programs that are coming new to our circuit and just show them some love and show them that hey, you hop on board with us, and you got Huff and you got other media that are at our events, and you have an opportunity to get on radars, move up radars. Both as a program and as a player and recruit. So we've got Formula coming out of San Fernando Valley. We've got Fast Camp coming out of San Diego. Two Shiesty coming out of Bakersfield. I'm excited to see them. We got Team Hustle coming out of the OC area. Grind to Shine, another OC area team. So I mentioned those programs because essentially you're on the clock now. This is a chance for you guys. We're putting you on right here on this podcast. You got the national recruiting editor of 247 Sports that's going to be there watching the entire weekend. So this is
Well,
your
and think about it too, TV. I mean, you go back to the very first year, you had a lot of the name programs that we expected to be in the championship game, and Goon Squad kind of came out of nowhere, made it to the championship. The next year, you had a lot of the name programs again, and Be Great out of Vegas won the championship.
Yep.
So a lot of times it's those teams that don't have the big name guys that end up winning the tournament, And then of course I get, oh, well, I beat a bunch of 5 stars. No, you didn't.
Yep.
Football's not played one on one. I got a sidebar there because this just tells you how ridiculously stupid sometimes this job can be. There was a long snapper who tried to say, "Well, I beat these other long snappers head to head that are ranked higher than me. I should rank head." I'm like, that's pretty funny. We should also have a spelling contest too, since that tells you the exact same amount of thing about how football is played, not one-on-one long snapping. But you're going to win a 7-on-7 tournament. You're not going to win a 7-on-7 tournament. Still isn't going to tell you if you're a big time recruit, but there are big time recruits that are going to be there. How about that for a segue?
Hey, Huff, all I'm saying is the people are waiting for a Huff vents it all out podcast. We're just going to give you a 3-hour special and just say Huff. List everything that's pissed you off over the years, every dumb parent you
3 hours? Dude, this is going to be like a Netflix 10 episode, 5 hour piece episode series.
10-part limited series. Huff
yes.
to the world.
Season 1.
Oh yeah, and for everyone, I mean, I'll jump back into some of these programs and kids, but yes, just as a theme, be one of those parents that's supporting your kid, proactive, but not one of the ones that's just annoying. Don't run your kid's social media account. Like we talk about that all the time. That is one of the biggest mistakes you can make because that really pisses college coaches and media off. And trust me, parents, they ultimately find out. It's inevitable. So just don't do it. Let your kid do it. And if they don't want to do it, don't do it for them. Don't force them. If they don't want to do it, then you can't make them, and the colleges and media guys can't recruit the parent. So if the parent wants it more than the kid, that should tell you something anyway. So
and trust me, these college coaches don't want the parents if that's how they're going to be, especially in a revenue sharing era.
Yep, absolutely.
On a totally better note, we're talking about Netflix. Breaking news is Happy Gilmore 2 will release on July 25th on Netflix. So that's at least something to look forward to.
Let's go. I hope it's better than Dumb and Dumberer 2 or whatever it was. So Happy Gilmore 2. I've heard there might be a sequel to the movie Blow as well, the Johnny Depp movie in early 2000s. So excited about some good sequels that are coming out. So Huff, let's jump back into this. We're coming to Southern California. We got to show love to some of the top Southern California programs and kids and people running it. Talk a little bit about Premium. Our guy Fig has, you talk about OGs in the industry. He's been doing it a long time, better than almost everybody else. Tons of kids coming through that program. Very historic program. Talk a little bit about Premium.
Yeah, I mean, Premium has long standing been one of the primary teams, not just in Southern California, but really nationally. And, you look back at their track record of players that they've had, guys like Bryce Young, won a Heisman Trophy, Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best receivers in the NFL right now. And, Justin Martin, who is headed to Maryland, had played at UCLA last year, just was never even their primary quarterback. He was playing on their second or their third team and, took his team to a couple tournament championships. And so you look at the historic at the history at quarterback, at receiver position, at the DB position. Fig and his staff. I think they got 4 teams that are playing in this weekend. They've been doing it long enough too that some of these teams that are in this tournament kind of branched out that were former players and former coaches of Premium that still are involved with Premium that have their own team. And so it kind of tells you the history of Premium and just kind of how far back they go and kind of the coaching tree that they now have.
Yeah, absolutely. We've gone Southern Cal. We'll come back. We have a couple others from the area we'll talk about. Let's hop up into the Northern California area. We talked about TMP, rightfully so. Talk about DB Select. My guy T Downs, shout out to T Downs, one of my favorites in this industry, running that program based out of Sacramento, California. They've come up and done a Seattle tournament with us. They do our LA tournament. We have a huge tournament in San Jose in April and Sacramento in May. I know he brings his team and program to our Northern California tournaments as well. I know they had a really well-known kid a couple years ago that came up to that Seattle tournament, ended up being a 5-star. I'll have to talk a little bit about DB Select out of Sacramento.
Yeah, DB Select it was a Philip Bell a couple of years
Philip
ago
Bell.
who won a
Yep.
state championship in Mission Viejo. Now plays at a little program that's had a decent little track record of receivers called the Ohio State University.
Mm.
But this year they've got Jamison Powell out of Folsom High School. He's headed to Ole Miss, playing in the SEC, going to play for Lane Kiffin. They've got a really intriguing receiver that I like a lot that I got a chance to see in Vegas, out of Reno, Nevada, and he's one of the only kids in Reno that doesn't go to Bishop Manogue High School. Amari Nash, a kind of a long, lanky receiver who I was really impressed with. They've also got Isaiah Williams, who's also at Folsom High School. He's committed to Nevada, which is in Reno. Savion Bandy, a kid that I really like out of El Cerrito, out of the Bay Area, was outstanding when I saw him a couple weeks ago. And so with T Downs, those guys are going to be definitely they're going to be a menace. They are always, speaking of Ohio State, I mean, last year he brought a defensive lineman who's going to Ohio State to play on the defensive line. He was playing tight end with them last year. And so, he's always got some big dudes that are being recruited nationally. But Jamison Powell, who's headed to Ole Miss out of Folsom High School, he's probably the biggest name for DB Select this year.
And I also want to give a shout out. We talked about T Downs. Yes, there's a lot of people that are headaches that run programs, that's kind of known throughout the industry. But then there's a guy like him that does everything the right way. Just a really good guy, has very respectful kids and parents and families, always coached well, always on time. Just I think it's important that we make sure we're highlighting the people that are doing things the right way. Usually it's the loudest minority percentage of people that you're hearing the most. So it's important we also shine a spotlight on the people doing it the right way. So shout out to T Downs and DB Select. Let's flip back to Southern California, a team and a brand and a name everyone's very familiar with out of the Long Beach area, Team TOA.
Mm-hmm. Team Toa was quarterbacked a couple of years ago by Nico Yamaliava, who's at Tennessee. Then his brother Madden took over. He's headed to the University of Arkansas. They had Cole Malau, who had been the MVP of this tournament for I want to say it was the 7th and 8th grade division 2 years ago. Koa ended up being the starter, taking over the reins as the starter at St. John Bosco this last year as a freshman, and very, very bright future for Koa. Unfortunately, he had offseason surgery, so they've got another kid named Boogie Anatama, who was at South Torrance, and now he's going to Bishop Montgomery, who's a 2028 as well. I got a chance to see him as an 8th grader playing with the Pink Outlaws, which, Zach Wilson, Isaac Wilson played for that program. And so Boogie will be playing there. I think Toa won a tournament earlier this winter with him at quarterback. So always talent with Team Toa. They've always got receivers. They've always got quarterbacks. They've always got linebackers. And, you got Big Nick, JD as well coaching, and, always a fun team to watch. And, they definitely bring the best out of other teams, and people like to play them. Amari Powell, another receiver, Max Leeper, as well. So, some real good talent. Marcus Keir is another kid I really like. At times, Marcus has been, overshadowed because on his own team at Loyola High School, we'll talk about this guy later, Brandon Lockhart, one of the premier corners in the country, a real defensive kind of heavy Loyola team with their recruits. But Marcus Keir is a receiver to know. So, plenty of guys to get the ball to, and Toe is always fun to watch.
And always fun to listen to is
Hmm.
Brandon perfectly pronouncing all of the Polynesian names. Huff does not miss, folks. This guy is multi-talented in every facet. When I've done some games with a lot of the Polynesian names, just start resorting to calling them the number they are because I don't want to disrespect them by mispronouncing it. But Huff has got it, and that's what I think one of the many reasons so respected within the Polynesian community. Let's flip back up north. We're kind of going south, north in the California area. 209 TMP Elite. This is Coach Roy out of Stockton, California. Stockton, an area with a lot of talent. TMP is in that TMP family and brand of the original TMP, Terrence Leonard out of Sacramento himself. But Huff talk about 209 TMP Elite out of Stockton.
Yeah, I got to see a couple of their guys this last weekend. In fact, up at the Team Paula showcase up in Northern California, they got a young man that I like a lot, Jackson Fay, out of East Union High School in Manteca, California. Speedy guy. I think he went 10.8 earlier this week in his first track meet of the year, 10.89 to be exact. And then ran the 4x1 and the 200 for his school as well. But he's kind of the guy that they were really excited about at the National Press event a couple weeks ago. He had a top five 40 time there. So that's a guy that I know that Roy, Coach Green are really high on, and a guy that could kind of just see his stock continue to soar this offseason.
If you mentioned the track time, and I know in recruiting, I mean, first off, um, every kid runs a 4.40 with a
Mhm.
stopwatch and a parent or best friend timing him.
Oh,
How
I've said it for
important?
years. If I had a dollar for every kid that claimed that he ran a 4.5, I wouldn't be on this podcast because I'd be retired on that beach you talk about. If I had an actual dollar for every kid that actually ran the 4.5 or the 4.6 that they claimed, I would have to work until I was 97 because I would be homeless and without any kind of income.
And that kind of leads to my point of why track numbers are so um, credible for guys like yourself doing this, college coaches, because those times don't lie.
No.
That 100-meter time, that 200-meter time. How much stock do you put into a player's track times
Oh,
in terms of
more than
quality?
anything. I mean, it was funny. I was down at a Power Four school last August, or sorry, last April, and sitting down talking with this program, and they were going in, and tracking football is a scouting service and kind of a analytics program that this Power Four program use, and it kind of gives them an indication of what these guys, what their speeds really like, because the 40 can lie. I mean, I've seen it for years. PB, you're from Oregon. You grew up in the shadows of the Nike facility, and you'll remember there were those years where the opening always had elite players in elite times, but a lot of those guys, especially in certain pockets of the country, they really know how to run a 40. They train to run the 40. Doesn't mean they're fast. It means they know how to run a 40, but their game speed doesn't match it. Their long speed doesn't match it, but they know how to start. They know how to do all that. And so coaches have been putting more and more emphasis on verified track times as a result of that, because the 40 has become so skewed at times. So verified track is a huge, and it's not just the speed times. I mean, you want to see shot put discus throws for linemen and even elite linebackers. A kid that we saw in the state of Washington a couple of years ago, Braden Platt, one of the premier throwers in the country, discus, shot put, and the hammer throw, or the javelin, I mean. So, track is a huge indicator of your speed and your explosiveness and your power. And it's 100% being used to vet top recruits by college programs.
Um, I mentioned Huff in May. For everyone, you can go check our circuit out at the 7on7association.com or on our social media channels and see our full circuit of all the tournaments we have in the locations. I mentioned Portland, Boise, San Jose, Sacramento, another Seattle one still on the docket. But I'm excited. We just checked out the location we're doing in Sacramento in May, and I want to stay on that theme and talk a little bit about CUC, which is a
Mhm.
program run by Trey Taylor out of Sacramento, and just wanted to give him a shout out. You know, Trey and I played junior college ball together at City College of San Francisco. Have stayed in contact and friends, and love seeing him building up his program. They're going to have a 15U and an 18U team in the tournament this weekend. They always do multiple of our tournaments. They come to Boise, and they're going to do San Jose and Sacramento this year as well. So wanted to give Trey a shout out. We talk about guys really trying to do it the right way, run a good program, give kids opportunities. Over the years, he's had some really talented kids, and
Mhm.
with these programs in every area. You have years where you might have more talent, less. I remember KT Prep one year telling us, I think it was Nathan Kenyon saying, look, our senior class is a little bit down, but our junior class is better. But that eighth and ninth grade class are really special, and that's the Mikey Mitchell and some of these other groups as they've come through, and he was very accurate. So
And
I
he's got some good young talent, like you said. He's got some underclassmen that are starting to make some noise. 2027, kind of a longer athlete named Gus Bailey out of Rosemont High School. Is one of those names. Xavier Younger just picked up an offer by Sac State, and in a showing of how full circle we become, our guy Nate Kenyon, who ran KT Prep for years, it still is in his name, but he's now the defensive backs coach at Sacramento State, and now offering guys that are playing for all these other programs too. So that's another thing to keep in mind, parents and programs, that if they don't play for your team, you never know who might be recruiting your son in a couple of years. I've seen a number of college coaches that were coaching on a 7-on-7 team, working on a 7-on-7 program, and now worked their way up the ranks and are now coaching in college. So keep that in mind.
Well, you look at our good friend Marcus Griffin, who just became the new director of recruiting at University of Washington, and Marcus was at all of our tournaments on the sideline watching kids and part of it. So you're exactly right. I mean, last year, crazy story. We're doing our LA tournament, and we're on the sidelines trying to, and people were getting close, and I was getting frustrated, and I turned to yell at this guy to get the F off the field, and I turned around, and I'm about to say it. And yeah, it's Kyle Shanahan, just standing right there on the sideline because he had his son in the tournament on one of the programs. But you're exactly right. There's college coaches, many that have a son that plays on a team, so they are legally allowed to be there watching their son. And if they just kind of happen to look over that way and see, some of the high school kids and recruits that they wanted to see, then just was happenstance they saw it. But yeah, you're exactly right. You never know who's watching. Coaches take jobs all the time. And so it's just always good to, one, perform at all times, and two, always be a good person and respectful, because that's the kind of stuff we talk about too. I'm big on, how does someone treat the people that they see as not important to them? It's easy for a kid to, hey, Mr. Huffman, and be very respectful to you because they know who you are. But how do they treat the guy, the janitor who's helping pick the trash up over on the side? And
Yeah.
that tells you a lot about a kid and gives you a lot of insight into his character.
And I think that that's always something that you got to keep in mind is, how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you're going to be a jackass in some things, you're probably going to be a jackass in everything. If you're going
Yep.
to be a good, solid kid in one thing, you're probably going to be a good, solid kid in everything. And guess who college coaches want to invest their scholarships and their NIL in for the most part?
Yep, exactly right. Huff, we got a couple more to talk about here, and then at the end, drum roll. Huff's favorite part of the episode is where he does predictions of
Mhm.
scores, who's going to win it at each division. Sometimes there's some technical difficulties that it happens to go mute right at the time Huff is doing all his predictions. So I hope we have cleaned that up for this episode, Huff, and it'll be the first time in 4 years that we've actually will hear you give those predictions. So crazy timing. It always works out that way. But let's come back down Southern California area. Hellstar Sports. This is a program. This is their first tournament in our circuit. So it's an honor to have them in. This is a big name brand. They've had a lot of really good teams, a lot of really talented kids over the years. Really well run program. Super excited, Huff, to have them in our circuit, our Bravery Tour for the first time, and at this LA tournament. Talk a little bit about Hellstar.
Yeah, so they've got guys kind of from all over, what positions you name them. Hayden Stepp one of the top. I think he's the number one player in the state of Nevada in the 2027 class out of Bishop Gorman. You may have heard of them. They produced a player or two. Caleb Tafua, who is committed to Texas A&M. You've got Trayshawn Jackson, Messiah Mingo, Eric McFarland, who is an electric receiver, freshman All-American at IMG, originally out of Las Vegas, played with them. Miles Baker, 2027 DB. Jalen Hill, another 2027 DB from Southern California. Aaron Washington, another 2027 DB out of Mater Dei. So, it's kind of a who's list of skill position players for HealthStar.
Um, there's a program, a couple programs wanted to mention here. Team Lillard. So
Mhm.
everyone knows Dame Lillard, NBA. His brother Houston was a great football player in his own right and has a program based out of Portland, Oregon, but also has expanded and now has a franchise in Oakland, California. Lillard bringing a couple teams to this tournament. Excited to see them. We also have NDO, Never Ducking Opportunities, out of Fresno, California. Love having them in our stuff. They'll have multiple teams. Have the last two teams to talk about High Intensity, based out of San Diego. They also have a franchise in San Jose. Talk a little bit about them, and then talk a little bit about Elevate, run by Vince Carter out of Stockton, California.
Yeah, high intensity, pretty strong presence in San Diego. Trevor Tabapau, who dad John has been, coach down in San Diego. His older brother was a quarterback in that in the 2025 class. A lot of guys from like the Mission Hills, Mount Carmel, Rancho Bernardo area in San Diego. So a lot, and have had a really good. I think they won. Goodness, they won a tournament. I want to say they went up to the Bay Area and won a tournament in February. So they will hesitate to travel. And good group of guys from San Diego, pretty young team too. A lot of 27s and 28s on that team. To keep an eye on though for high intensity out of San Diego, and then Elevate. They made it to the Final Four, the semifinals of the Battle 7-on-7 team tournament in Vegas. I think they lost to. If I remember right, they lost to Low Pro, which wins more tournaments. They're like take what the South Sound Storm used to do in the Pacific Northwest, and then that's what Low Pro has done on a national scale. Lost to them in the semifinals. Really good group of talented receivers. They got Osani Gales, who was formerly at St. Mary's High School 2027, transferred to IMG. He's a top 100 player. His teammate at St. Mary's, Kenneth Moore, who's committed to UCLA, is playing with him this weekend. Sinai Thomas, who's announcing his decision in, I think, 2 weeks, out of Reardon High School in San Francisco. He's playing. He's one of their other receivers. But then they've got a young quarterback who was an MVP at a tournament. I want to say maybe last year, 2 years ago. Elevate won a youth tournament. Elijah Walker, a 2028 quarterback out of Chavez High School, and I think it's Chavez High School. There's a lot of high schools in Stockton, but done a really good job in winning tournaments and moving on to those tournaments with a pretty good group of receivers to get the ball to. Oh, another kid that I love, Kobe Shabazz, receiver at Grant High School. His set. When you think of Grant High School, you think of the great players that have come from there. Shaq Thompson, who, like you, was a star at University of Washington TV.
Oh,
His
damn.
brother Sidquan, who played at Cal, played in the NFL, is one of the coaches there at Grant. But they got a little receiver, Kobe Shabazz, 2027, who made a play in the state playoffs that kept their season alive and moved them on. They eventually won a state championship. So just a really good group of receivers there for Elevate.
And Huff, I lied. There was one last program to mention, Flightline. We got
Mhm.
my guy Tim Williams. Worked with him over the years, done a great job coaching, and now he's put together a program called Flightline, based out of the Los Angeles area. Talk about Flightline as we wrap this up here.
Yeah, Flightline, also Travion Beck, who played at St. John Bosco and then at Cal, the founder of the original GOAT recruiting 10 years ago. Travion, I'm still waiting for that to be, the great recruiting venue that is. But shout out to both those guys. Flightline has some dudes. They've got DBs like Brandon Lockhart from Loyola High School, who's committed to USC. You've got Ace Latuli and Isala Wiliava out of St. John Bosco. Ace plays at Mater Dei. You got, receiver like Devin Almondi, who's committed, or who goes to Newberry Park. Aiden Edwards, quarterback out of Tustin High School. Gavin Williams, one of the top safeties in the 2027 class out of Damien High School. So a really good group there as well. It's exciting. A lot of the skill position players that are going to be there.
Yeah, this is going to be a super fun one. We're going to wrap this up. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Come on out, College of the Canyons this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. You're going to see a lot of Avery Strong, Bravery, tents, feather flags, field boards. Want to mention that because we are always supporting the foundation that Brandon and his wife Amanda set up for their daughter Avery Huffman. So come out, have a good time. Huff, before we close out the predictions part, we're going to start. We're just going high school, top teams, semifinals, championships. When I say it, you give me who the final four is going to be, who ultimately is going to win it, and who ultimately is going to be the MVP. You ready? Hope no technical difficulties here. We've
Yeah.
got everything squared away. Run it.
Yeah, I'm ready.
It's happening again, folks. I know he's talking, he's giving it probably great
We'll walk
content right
away
there.
with the trophy on Sunday. There you have it.
There you have it, folks. You heard it from the man himself, Brandon Huffman. So anyway, appreciate everybody's time. Look forward to seeing everybody this weekend. College of the Canyons got a DJ, food trucks. It's going to go down at COC. Come on out and have some fun.